You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Center, this is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share facts.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is We'll do it live! Time goes in, time goes out. Never miscommunication.
It's over 9,000! My name is Foxy.
The balls are in there. Do a barrel roll. Don't save me, bro. It's a trap. I'm a firing believer. Time to do. Hey, Charlie, wake up. Oh, God, oh, man.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Nerd to Know Basis Show, airing on Phoenix 92.5 FM and all those wonderful places on the internet like Spotify. I am Cian, and for his grand return, for which I hope Dara adds trumpet sounds onto, it's...
You can't keep a good thing down. Not even homelessness could stop me. I live in Meath. It's Kev.
Yeah, I was going to say. if Dara could just add some dramatic swells there. I'm sure he has nothing else to do. Why not?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, nothing else. Nothing else. Even though he's flying back from Paris for... It's the second month. This is already like the third trip to Europe he's taken. Like, he's definitely got nothing better than to edit and fanfare for me.
Oh, but it's a pleasure to have you back. I'm sorry that you missed the kind of movies wrap up last week. But before we get into what...
Well, why? Why are we talking about last year's movie when the best movie of this year has already come and gone?
You have segued me into the headlines. Yes, we're going to cover the surprise hit of the year so far, which is Puss in Boots. We're going to talk some 2022 TV and some shared video games like Fire Emblem we've been playing. But before we just get into that, I hope you survived Christmas, obviously.
Just about.
You survived homelessness.
Survived homelessness. Turkey sandwiches were a lifeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just for context, I was away from the show because the lease left at my house, but we've landed. I now live 2 counties over, and things are really nice and quiet here. I found an otter crossing, and that's been just bliss for me. Like, that's just the idea of you have to stop your driving so that otters can cross the road is something that just...
If you hear strange nature sounds or someone shouting Newgrange in the background, it's all normal stuff.
Can't be worried. Just me. Just vibes.
But we will discuss the local colour more as we go along. I was delighted to hear that you have seen Puss in Boots, which I'll talk about now. It is the new, for lack of a better term, DreamWorks Shrek film, which I was surprised to find out was actually a sequel and not a prequel to the Shrek films. So, Kev, why don't you give us a quick, very basic, spoiler-free rundown of the proceedings before we chat about it?
Well, that's, for the record, because it's also like a sequel to the original Puss in Boots movie, which I have not watched.
I've seen it. It's okay. It's got a nice sort of Spanish Western type feel to it, but It wouldn't change your life. It's no Shrek 2, it's fine.
What is, except for maybe this.
Yes.
But yeah, that's so I think that's full up, probably don't have to watch any of the other movies to get this. But the entire premise of it is Puss in Boots. If you've watched any of the Shrek movies, he's always been kind of fearless and always kind of a man of, or a cat of adventure and daring do. And this movie, with an intro sequence that literally talks about how he spits in the face of death, comes to the conclusion that mortality is something that is very real and very present and coming for him. And it's a movie about him about Puss in Boots accepting and fearing death. in a way that is very viscerally real. Like like DreamWorks, I think DreamWorks are having a bit of a turnaround, but like from the studio that like it reminds me of something like Kung Fu Panda 2.
Okay,
Actually,
I'm afraid I haven't seen that one, unfortunately.
Oh, it's very, very good. Where the first one is, hey, here's Jack Black as a panda that learns Kung Fu. That like is fun, but is also a kids movie that only kind of harkens back to Chinese Kung Fu movies. The second one is about how he is a survivor of a genocide.
Right.
and dealing with the war criminal that does that. So like it's that similar sort of tone shift where the first one, as I said, was kind of like just a rompy kind of Western. This one, death is chasing this cat.
Yes, actually, I'm glad you brought that aspect up because we're kind of used to DreamWorks by now. DreamWorks have been kind of a bit quiet for the last few years, but maybe How to Train Your Dragon was huge, obviously. But yeah, we're kind of used to DreamWorks being kind of glib, like, you know, sort of there was a humor and kind of quippy.
Yeah, there was a solid few years where they were just seeming to kind of like be the cheap alternative to Disney, even like after their kind of heyday with Shrek and that.
Yeah.
They seem to just try to seem to be cashing in. But this recently they seem to have taken a turn because although I didn't watch it, did you watch their last one? I think it's called The Bad Guys.
No, but I've read the books and I've heard wonderful things. I wasn't actually aware this was a DreamWorks thing, actually, which leads into our next point, which is the animation style was so different. I assumed it was something different. It wasn't a DreamWorks thing. And watching this film, I genuinely thought, hang on, have they outsourced this to Leica? You know, the Coraline, like people, Kubo and the Two Strings. I talked to my brother. Apparently, there are Into the Spider-Verse animators on this.
That does right.
Which gives it that sort of, for lack of a better word, janky kind of stop motion-y feel to it. You know,
I wouldn't say stop motion. I think like
no, but like
I'm not
are missing in combat for style effects. You know?
Yeah, it's that kind of, it's very heavily cell shaded, and they'll chop. Like I'm not an animator by any means, but it seems like they kind of chop the frame rate at like specific times to add that momentum, and it's very comparable to Spider-Verse and what Sony animation pictures are doing with the Spider-Verse and the Mitchells versus the Machines movies, where everything's got that like such a rubber band feeling to it, that it just all flows. It's so pretty. And again, like if DreamWorks are deciding that Sony animation is what they want to copy from now on, hey, I'm all here for it. Like in an industry where animation is being suffocated nowadays, DreamWorks doing this is a breath of fresh air. It's so heartening.
I completely agree. And like even before kind of you stated the premise very well, but even before it gets to that, like from the perspective, like Puss in Boots was very noticeably like smaller in the way he was framed and stuff. Like when you watch the first Puss in Boots, which you did before watching this, everything is just kind of the height of Puss in Boots. So he just kind of looks like a person.
Yeah.
But then in this big opening scene, he's surrounded by like an entire like castle
village of people.
And he's clearly cat-sized.
Yeah.
And like all of the whole film is all about kind of big daunting things, and he looks more like a cat. And I'm not sure if it's just the scale or something they've done with the eyes, but yeah, it definitely feels like they've completely changed course, because like no one was in like you said earlier, no one was in like genuine emotional peril in the Shrek films or anything like that, you know?
Yeah, no. Well, for a start, like there's definitely along with the animation itself, it's a full model overhaul. Like if you put this next side by side with the Shrek 2 Puss in Boots, they're two different people. But yeah, it just. Which actually, one thing I do want to say, if you're not fully sold on the movie, DreamWorks have put the first 10-minute sequence on YouTube for free.
Really?
And if you don't watch the movie, watch that, because that is one of the highlights. And everything, and like it's so many different things, and the music is also incredible. It's that very Spanish mariachi kind of high energy acoustic guitar sound.
Oh yeah, they open
Like
with a song.
underlines. Yeah. Yeah, the musical numbers. I also, again, did like I heard about it, but I didn't look into it before going into it. And like, even though it suffers from big name celebrities as a voice cast, still a very good voice cast. I was sat there in the credits and I was like, oh, that was Florence Pugh. And that was Olivia
That was
Colman.
what I was about to say. Yeah, I was trying to figure out Olivia Colman as the mama bear for the longest time. And
the dad was Ray Winston. I clocked that immediately.
They were all putting on really good voices.
Oh no, like that's again. I would if like listening to them, I didn't guess that.
Yeah,
the dad was Ray Winston, and I caught that immediately. He's just doing Ray Winston.
I mean, he does one thing very well. Why not? Like,
keep going.
He's going to be a good bear. Like, but even that actually is lovely because, like, to compare it to the first Puss in Boots, they kind of have Jack and Jill as like just a sort of standard, like kind of like Bonnie and Clyde type villains. But like, I really liked Goldilocks and the Three Bears in this.
Oh yeah,
no, like there's so much heart in their like journey and all that kind of stuff. And is it Little Jack Horn, Big Jack Horn?
Big Jack Horn, John Mulaney's Big Jack Horn, the most evil man on the planet.
It's just so fun. It's such an obscure like character to bring in, and they make that the joke.
No, what my absolute favorite. I don't know who actually voices him, but the Jiminy Cricket doing the Rodney Dangerfield. I don't know. This is. Have you ever considered? Have you ever considered
Crosby type thing?
Have you ever considered what friendship might do to you? It's such a weird pull for a kids animation movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, it's like because every Shrek property has to make fun of Disney.
Yeah,
so getting obviously all they like without spoiling too much, you get a lot of Disney prop humor.
Oh yeah,
and then you get the cricket, and you're like, okay, that's a not too distracting amount. Especially considering this film's about a wish, you might as well lean into as much Pinocchio stuff without Pinocchio because he's already here. Although he does have a cameo.
He does have a cameo.
Yeah, and actually that's another thing as well, which is they're clearly kind of trying to, for lack of a better term, MCU the Shrek universe.
Yeah, you know it's a lead up.
Yeah. Shrek and Donkey aren't in this and all them, but like you do get the sense they're kind of on the fringes.
Yeah, I think there's been like outside of like the movie universe, there's been murmurs of a Shrek 5 for years now.
Yeah.
And I think this was like a testing the waters. Do people still feel in the Shrek universe? And I'll be honest, I would like Shreks 3 and 4 were dire.
I actually quite like Shrek 4. If you pretend Shrek 3 doesn't exist, Shrek 4 is a pretty decent Return of the Jedi for the Shrek movies.
Do you know what? Now that I remember, I think we've had this conversation. And because I remember being like, no, Shrek.
We are ancient old men repeating the same things. Because over and over.
I think what it landed on was I was like, no, Shrek 4 was bad. It had this, this, and this. And you were like, that's Shrek 3. I was like, no, because Shrek 3 was also bad. Because it had this, this, and this. And you were like, that's also Shrek 3. It was just a bad movie.
I mean, it's very considerate of the Shrek franchise to put all its bad stuff into one skippable film.
But yeah, I think like if this is the sort of team that they're working with, I think a Shrek 5, again, if they keep a similar team with this depth of writing, a Shrek with this animation style, would be. I just love to see that as like a proof of concept.
Totally.
I feel like this is, if DreamWorks know what they're doing, they can cash in by just trying at least more than the bare minimum right now.
Yeah.
But I think like they're really putting a lot of effort in. And I hope they kind of keep that up and don't just get complacent because they could produce some absolute bangers. And this is one of them. Yeah,
because what are the DreamWorks properties? Kung Fu Panda,
How to Train a Dragon.
Any other big ones?
Oh, there definitely is.
Shark Tale.
Oof. What was it? Into the Wild. Into the Wild.
I don't remember that one.
It was, remember Madagascar?
Oh, that was a bit of bear, was it?
I don't know. I never watched it.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, though. It's like for a long time, DreamWorks had the signature style where you look at it and you go, "Oh, that's a DreamWorks thing," and it's like such a commonplace animation thing that even the likes of Coco Melon kind of looks like DreamWorks now.
Yeah, no, I think
to be fair, they invented the style. You can't take that away from them. But
no, I think they're like it. As I said, I think they're definitely trying something new. Seeing what Sony, who kind of are on, who I'd say are like on top of the game right now. Maybe under Disney, but that's because Disney's the monolith.
Yeah.
But I think like they seem to be kind of like taking the trends, and the trends right now are very good for big budget animation movies when they come up.
Yeah, I really hope this one does well. Like, I mean, I don't want, like you mentioned Disney. Obviously, I'd want something a bit more obscure, like say, what was it, Mitchell and the Machines? Was it
Mitchell's versus the Machines?
Mitchell's versus the Machines. I like kind of, even though I know that's a Sony type thing, and like it's just picking a different monolith to root for. I still like variety, and I thought Puss in Boots was really different, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And the cinema I was in was packed and laughing the whole way through, and my 3-year-old was like alert the whole time watching it, and wanted to dress as Puss in Boots when she got home. So yeah, I think this is one of those films that is going to entertain adults as much as kids. And you don't actually get that as many of those as you'd think, you know?
No, it gets a blanket recommendation no matter what. Like, that's bring your young kids to see it, bring your college friends to see it, bring your dad to see it. Like, it's all around.
Bring your cat.
Bring your cat. It's just good. It's just a good movie.
Excellent. Well, we may talk more about Puss in Boots as we go on. But last week, with Dara and Katie, I promised that we do some TV or streaming type picks of 2022. And actually, very helpfully, you have anime covered and that kind of stuff. I'm going to start just by doing some of the more recent stuff. Have you seen Wednesday yet?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't think it stood out particularly. It was very much a fun, fine romp. I think it was better than I anticipated.
Right,
but the bar was low.
Okay, all right. Because like, not to go into too much biographical detail, but I work in drama, and as such, I work with quite a lot of like kind of teenagers and 20-somethings. And they loved it. And me watching Wednesday, I liked it, but it made me feel very old. It wasn't being aimed at me in a very big way, and I just felt bad for the parents. That's not a review. That's just a midlife crisis. But yeah, I liked it. It was for all the hype, like you said, it was kind of better than I expected. I thought it was very creative. It was a bit too Riverdale-y for me. It was still kind of one of those sort of teen dramas with just a lot of style thrown at it.
Yeah, but for a Netflix show, it had a real whiff of CW off it.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Like the Sabrina and stuff, which I know a lot of people like and stuff. So
I think I was happy. I think I was happy to see it because I'm truly always starved for good Addams Family.
Yes.
Because those animated movies are dire.
Oh, I haven't seen them. Okay.
I watched the first one and I heard the second
one
was
more
worse.
than one.
There's two. They're not great.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I'm happy to see that. I think Luis Guzman and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah.
Great jobs as Morticia Gomez. Like it's a great cast.
That's a good point as well. It's cast top to bottom because Gwendolyn Christie is in there.
Oh yeah.
Is it Jenny Ortega who plays Wednesday? She
does a great job. Like it's really saying something. Like they were big shoes to fill with Christina Ricci. Because that's like that Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams is a perfect role. Like I watch those movies regularly and I can't fault her. Her in the summer camp is true cinema.
That's one of those films. If it's on, I'll just drop everything, including work.
Yeah, but no, Jenna Ortega does a stellar job. Like she She fills that role solidly. Like she's got the deadpan. It works.
No, I completely agree. And I think I was wondering, because I don't know if Jenny Ortega is a big name or not. But I was wondering, is this another one of those like the Queen's Gambit moments where like she's going to become a big star because of this, because it is a really big, great performance in a.
Yeah, I'm seeing her name. I'm seeing her name kicking around. So maybe was Anya Taylor? I think Anya Taylor-Joy was around before the Queen's Gambit. She was in.
She was, but like she was in things like the X-Men film that nobody saw. Like it wasn't like working with Edgar Wright stuff yet.
Okay,
I'm sure she was great in them, but just in terms of like recognizability, like
Oh well, I mean, The Witch is a classic. She works off that goat flawlessly. I mean, Black Phillip's a scene eater, but you got to have someone go toe to toe.
All right. I'll keep going with the Netflix stuff just for now because it's the easiest. We already did an episode on this, but another pick of 2022 for me was Sandman.
Sandman was really good. Now, I think we went over this, so we'll keep this brief.
Yeah, we'll keep this brief.
At least from my perspective, not having read the comic, I really enjoyed it. But the impression I got is that people are surprised at how well it adapted.
Yes. Yeah. To be honest, I took about 4 episodes of convincing, which I know is a bit of a criticism because there's 9 episodes. But yeah, I was very impressed because I think unless it's something like the MCU, which I know this very much isn't, when you hear something's being adapted, you're kind of like, all right, what's the catch? Like, what's going to go? What are they going to change? And just due to the merits of format, Yeah. But yeah, it was surprisingly faithful and very creatively realized. And the cast, top to bottom, Gwendolyn Christie again, funnily enough, maybe she's got to deal with Netflix.
Definitely. But Tom Sturridge.
Yes, yeah.
Stand it. Like that's I was a little bit on the fence when I saw him without hearing him, but he has like that dropped octave voice that I feel like that is an otherworldly being.
Yes. And I've been waiting for him to break in for ages because I saw him on I think I mentioned this in my last episode. There's a great BBC series called The Hollow Crown, which is all the Shakespeare plays essentially done as Game of Thrones. And he was one of the kings, and he was like the king in between Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Hiddleston. Like he's been on their level for ages, but just no project has like broken him in.
Yeah.
So I was glad to see that happen for him. And it was just as someone who reads the Sandman books once a year, I was very impressed with it. And it was also nice they dropped an extra episode like 2 weeks afterwards.
It's something that I'm surprised we haven't seen more of from like history, because it adds to the format of web-based content. It's the idea of just like chucking something at, like dropping something at any time. Like obviously with big budget things, it's a lot to produce even an episode or something like that. So they obviously did all this as part of the main shoot.
Yes.
But it's something I'm surprised we don't see more of, to kind of drum a pipe or break seasons.
Yeah.
Like even kind of outsourced kind of smaller projects or smaller kind of side stories and things like that. Again, Sandman itself works towards that format because it's like a pseudo anthology series. You can take snippets and do small self-contained stories.
Okay, and actually Jesus, you're reading my mind today. You've hit upon the next point. If by any chance Neil Gaiman or David S. Goyer or any of them are listening, the only improvement I would make is that I felt that some of the episodes were straining to make chapters into 45, 50-minute episodes. Like even the cat and the story, The Dream of a Thousand Cats and the story of Gallipoli were both put into like a 50-minute episode. And I just don't think there's a need.
No.
25-minute long and release 18 of them. There's like, you're Netflix.
That's it. You're not constrained to
television format,
Exactly. Like make an episode that's 40 minutes long and make an episode that's an hour 20.
Yeah. What's stopping you? Stranger Things does it, and you invented Stranger Things. Sure, why not?
Exactly. Stop canceling animation shows.
Yes. Speaking of which, I also just want to say a few quick words about Cuphead Series 3. Still amazing. I don't know how it keeps getting better. Please don't cancel that. The devil is now our favorite fictional character in this house. I don't know how to feel about that.
I think there's worse role models.
True. If you haven't watched it, Kev, even just check out the 2 Christmas specials from Cuphead Series 3.
I may do.
Delightful.
I may do. If I may, I think I've got my big pulls from last year. I think the first and foremost, I'd say best thing of TV last year was the finale of Better Call Saul.
I haven't actually seen Better Call Saul, so I'd like you. Obviously, you can't tell me the whole thing, but
no, give
me your sort of general overview of the last season.
The last season, it's very much wrap up, but I think they hit, considering everything that the show has been building towards over the past, over its 5 seasons. It starts, how best was it's the start of every season kind of had what Saul or Jimmy, as you get to know him, was doing after the events of Breaking Bad.
Right.
And you got to get snippets of that. And then 4 seasons of how he got there, what he did, how he was established.
So you're kind of working towards the beginning,
Yeah. Right. And that it's so masterful because it doesn't. Very quickly, you forget it's a prequel to Breaking Bad.
Okay.
And you're just fully invested in Jimmy and frankly, the core is Jimmy and Kim's relationship. His ex, by the events of Breaking Bad, his ex-wife.
Right.
And just, oh God, I'm blanking on her name, but Kim's actress is one of the greatest performances on television.
Okay. All right.
Just emotionally rich and so complicated, and knowing that she is in with the messiest man on the planet and rubber banding between actually being sensible and just going all the way in. It's masterful. But about halfway through season 5, you catch up with Breaking Bad. You get to the point where he is now Saul Goodman and he meets Jesse and Wolf. So then you have the last 5 episodes of what the start of each season has been peppering leading up to the events after. And it's very, I know you don't want to spoil it. Yeah, I don't want to,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great parallel. There's a very leopard can't change his spot story there.
Right.
Bob Odenkirk is a joy. So if you like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, I think is better.
I've heard that a lot, and actually I've been, because much as it's great as it is, I struggle to get through Breaking Bad, and I just want to go to Saul, but I will persevere.
I'll tell you, you can jump into Saul.
Oh,
without Breaking Bad, I think you will get as much enjoyment out of Saul. It's very much, you'll get a lot knowing what happens in Breaking Bad. Right. But the core of the story of Better Call Saul is unrelated for the most part.
Okay. All right. That's quite a hard endorsement. I might do that tonight then. Let's bounce one back and forth because I know you've got a few animes and stuff to recommend. I'm going to pick out a random one that no one seems to have talked about, which is The Devil's Hour. Did you hear of this one?
No.
It was the biggest thing in the world for 2 weeks and then it vanished and everyone forgot it existed. It's Peter Capaldi, and it's on Prime Video. I'm going to look up the other wonderful actress name now.
Wait, no. Do you know what? I know one. My dad watched this.
Really?
You and my dad are the only people that I've ever heard talk about this.
Oh my God. Okay, we need to sync up our watch list or something. It's Jessica Raine as the lead and Peter Capaldi, and you look at the posters and you think it's going to be a crime drama, and then it isn't. It is,
right.
It's the basic premise is that you've got Jessica Raine, who's kind of a stressed out social worker. She's taking care of her son on her own. It's all this kind of stuff. And then strange things start happening around the area, and a kind of wanted criminal played by Peter Capaldi gets captured. And then they start talking to each other, Capaldi and Raine's character. and then strange things start happening, and she starts getting like visions, a bit like, what was that American show, Medium? Visions of things that are going to happen, and she starts to intercede with them. But the more she helps people, the more things go off the rail, and they keep you in the dark as to whether it's a crime thriller, a supernatural thing, or like a sci-fi thing, all the way to the end. And it's 6 episodes long, and it's very, very peculiar, but it's one of the most interesting things I've seen in ages. And it just like my wife hates like kind of horror type stuff.
Yeah.
But we blasted through this in 2 evenings because like just could not stop watching it.
Wow.
And the whole thing is framed between a bit like what you were saying about Better Call Saul, actually. The whole thing is framed between the conversation between the prisoner and the main character after most of the stuff has gone down. So you keep getting these back and forths about what it's building to. You keep getting these psychic visions about what's going to happen. It's a bit mind-bending, but the character stuff is really, really good. And have I completely lost you?
No, it actually sounds very, very interesting. Yeah, no, it's that mystique. I like it when a show has the mystique of like, I'm not even sure what genre this is until like the last quarter.
That's it, exactly. And yeah, as far as I can tell, it's a new writer, which I always like seeing, especially on a big platform. Like usually it's all very established people. It's very, very unusual, but it's not so incomprehensible that you can't follow it. And like, if you're paying attention, it all kind of pays off together in a really satisfying way. I'm not going to say any more, but I'm just going to say if you have Prime Video, it's definitely worth the watch. It's really, really good.
I think I may have my old flatmate's Prime account linked.
There you go.
Linked to at least something. And if I can get that and Lower Decks in before they realize I have that password, I'll be happy.
Oh, yes. Oh, don't worry. I've got Lower Decks on here. But it's over to you. So your turn.
I'm going to go for the other kind of like high profile one of last year. And I've got to give props to Haste of the Dragon.
I actually haven't seen this yet. Tell me more.
Yeah, as you know, obvious overview. It's a prequel to the Game of Thrones series.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with me and prequels apparently last year. Rife with them. But it's telling a story it's telling basically a history book story that George wrote kind of on the side. Outlining parts of the Targaryen.
I remember you getting this in the bookshop we worked in. Yeah.
Oh, I have it on the shelf next to me. I love that book. I love that man's writing. Anyway, it's tailing the lineage of good
the Targaryens.
Gravy. What is his name? Jaehaerys was the predecessor.
Aegon?
Aegon's his son. Oh, okay. God. Gone.
Jim Targaryen.
Jim. Anyway. No, it's outlining it's outlining and leading up to one of the big notes of the Targaryen history in the Blackfire Rebellion. Or no, the Dance of the Dragons, Blackfire Rebellion.
Yeah.
Dance of the Dragons, where there is a succession crisis in the Targaryen lineage, where the rightful king names his daughter Rhaenys. I'm terrible at fantasy names.
It's okay. There's a glossary. Get out your books.
Yeah, no, get the history.
This is an interactive segment.
Again, I could get up and just get the glossary of this.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna pull you out a little bit. As someone who hasn't seen any of Game of Thrones, I've just read the books. Like, how much does this do to kind of bring back the goodwill that I understand the final season of Game of Thrones kind of burned up?
Well, actually, that's really the reason I was bringing it up, because it pulls off a magic trick and fully does. And fully does like almost make you forget about those bad seasons. It's because it has that fresh, rich character depth that early Game of Thrones has. You get that political drama. You get all of the messiness, and you get the kind of the obscene amounts of violence.
Are there any like standout performers or anything? Because the candidacy is stacked.
Yeah, no, Matt Smith. Matt Smith smashes it. Just really, really knows how to play a real monster character. Paddy Considine does a fantastic performance. Hold on, I have the
Yeah.
book
No,
here.
you're absolutely right. Like I first discovered him as like one of the Andes in Hot Fuzz, and one of the joys of the past like 10 or 15 years has been discovering he's like a really solid character actor who just happens to be very funny, which you don't get a lot of,
No, and like he does a great job because it's a series that takes like across the 8 episodes, it takes place over the better part of 20, 30 years.
Right.
And like a lot of like Matt Smith's character, you see him on episode 1, you see him on episode 8. That man has not aged. He comes from a different planet. But especially because Paddy Considine's character ages and deteriorates, gets very ill by the end of the season.
Right.
Like that by episode 7, that man is melting. and Considine carries that with such weight.
Well, see, that's what I'm intrigued by, and what I'd love to see about it. When I don't have the streaming service on, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But because I've just finished watching I, Claudius from the 70s, and that's one that spans about 80 years of time in the show, and I hear that's kind of what the Dragons show is doing too, isn't it? There's some time jumps and stuff, isn't there?
Yeah. Now I think because season one ends on a particularly kind of starting point for like a major conflict that's kind of soon to come. So I think the time jumping is something that's really kind of closed in now. Yes. It was more that they were using in the first season to kind of establish a lot of characters, but particularly younger characters like the names are all escaping me. But the 2 daughters that are kind of the heart of the conflict.
Yeah.
They start off with younger actresses that jump up, and both the princess who marries Paddy Considine's character. I'm talking myself in circles because I can't find the names of the book. And I'll say her transition of actress was so good I didn't even realize they changed actresses at the time. The change to Emma Darcy, I know they play Renice in the latter half.
Yeah,
was much more distinct because they're just 2 very distinctly looking people.
Yes.
But again, both performances were great. Again, it's a fantastic fantasy show like Game of Thrones, but as I said, the real reason I just have to kind of give it such props is because when this launched, I had no interest because I was like, I'm really soured on Game of Thrones. After 3 weeks of episode, like with the 3rd week in, everyone was like, no, you gotta watch this. And I did, and I'm hooked again. Like they've completely roped me back.
Excellent.
And I just think that's an absolute prestige trick.
Okay, I may do the Better Call Saul trick and start with House of the Dragon and go into Game of Thrones then. Okay, this sounds fun.
Again, I'd say very similar, and actually more than Better Call Saul. You could watch House of the Dragon and not have an inkling of Game of Thrones because it takes place centuries before Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Like,
excellent. Okay, I'm going to quickly zip through the last 22 picks I have, and obviously I'm going to give time for your anime picks. Man vs. Bee has been watched 5 times in this household.
Oh my God.
If you haven't seen it, just the title says it all. I've never heard such a brilliant elevator pitch as Man vs. Bee. It's just Rowan Atkinson versus a bee. You don't need any more.
Does it carry 10 episodes?
It does.
Oh my God.
Well, now, to be fair, most of the episodes are 10 minutes long. It's just a film.
Okay.
But you do get breaks, which is nice because it'd be hard to watch a whole film of it. But like if it's like binging it on Netflix, fine. Why not? Absolutely hilarious. I'd recommend that. We've already covered it on the show, but Peacemaker was at the start of the year. That's very good.
I never got around to it.
I would recommend it, and especially since its success seemingly has reshaped the entire DC universe.
Yeah.
What an unlikely chain of events that led to
man,
that.
John Cena's just got that power.
Yeah. I would recommend that, if even for the soundtrack and the fact it's a James Gunn TV show.
Yeah. Like,
it's worth your time for the music, if nothing else. I want to also very quickly even just name check the Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel-y stuff, but would you like to do your anime stuff first?
Well, to name check my favorite show of last year, it was definitely Star Trek Voyager, because I watched all 8 seasons, but that's a conversation for another time. No, the one I want to kind of name drop, and only technically as 2022 TV is The Owl House on Disney.
Okay.
Just one of the best animated shows, like animated kids TV shows to come out in the past like ages, and it's an absolute crying shame that Disney are canning it.
Really? That's very peculiar.
There's a lot of different things. The big most prevailing kind of reason why, and the creator's pretty outspoken about it, is that it is a show that leaned very heavily on queer themes. Like, right. Yeah, like its leading characters are in a lesbian romance, and apparently that just ruffled too many feathers. So they not only like can't cut the series short, its third season isn't a full season and is 3 40-minute specials.
That's very peculiar.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just wrong, but I'm going to say peculiar.
Yeah, no, it's bad out, and on like it that on top of the as I mentioned earlier, the climate of just these major brands like Disney, like Netflix, like HBO, just cutting animated series for
it's been a really bad year for that. I'm not even sure if we covered the headlines of like all of the stuff on streaming that's just vanishing unless you've already saved a hard copy. Like, yeah, no, it's bad. Yeah, bottom line, buy physical media or steal it because it can vanish. But yeah, no, the Owl House, like, even with that though, the show is fantastic. It's reclaiming that kind of wizarding world theme of Harry Potter and putting it through a queer lens, but doing something entirely different. I do remember my niece watching this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now it's coming back to me. It's one of the alum of. It's from one of the team that worked on Gravity Falls, Daily Terrace. It looked it. Yeah. Like there's a few. Alex Hirsch is who is the showrunner of Gravity Falls, is a great place to go for spotlighting if you're looking for good, like, well-produced animated series, because his team in Gravity Falls spread out after that show ended. Right. And went and made so many just different things. Well, that's just it. You even had, like, even in the voice cast, you had the likes of, like, Justin Roiland in as, like, a supporting actor. Like, it's just, like... Bad example. I know. Bad example this week, but that one just sprung to mind. Or, like, J. Jonah Jameson is in it. Like, you know, he's doing loads of voice work now. I know that's not his name, but you thought of him quicker when I said that. Yeah, no, you're totally right. But no, so the LA show got to Bob's Burgers. Like, you know, it's just it's spread outwards from there, you know. And I would say, like, you know, considering like we got the likes of Inside Job, Centaur World, Amphibia, like a load of really, really great shows. Owl House, I think, is the cream of that crop. Just so well put together, really well animated, just super enjoyable characters, and really, really funny. And again, even though it's so bittersweet and upsetting that it's getting cut down, the second of the 3 specials just came out at the end of last month. At least up to the first special is on Disney Plus. The second one should be out not before too long. They put it up on YouTube on the premiere day, so they probably put it up on Disney after that goes down. Right. Like officially, they put it up on YouTube. Like they're taking the time to make these specials actually wrap things up. Like things are going to feel rushed, but it's doing it satisfyingly. Okay, and like Gravity Falls was a 2-season and done thing, so that's even though its reasons are insidious, like having it just be short and brilliant, might actually help with its legacy. You know, maybe it's one of those things. Gravity Falls was designed to be 40 episodes. Fully enough. Oh, okay. That was a show that ended on its own terms. I'm surprised because the first season's quite slow, and then everything happens in the second season. I assumed they were rushing it in. You know, fully just completely like unrelated to remembering that I was even going to be recording tonight. I listened to a podcast episode on Gravity Falls on the way home from work earlier, and like it's so many different things. Like obviously, it was so many different reasons on like him actually wanting it to be small, concise. The fact that he voiced like 8 characters and was doing keyframe animation and show running. There's a reason I think he wants to not be doing this for years. Yes. But like that's Gravity Falls ended on its own terms. And I think I'm upset to see that LHS didn't get that chance. But like it's another one I'd say like Puss in Boots we mentioned earlier that
anyone, like, it is an all family ages thing. I think the same holds true for the Owl House. It's got enough, like, very similar to like Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Right.
where it doesn't talk, like, it's completely suitable for kids of all ages and doesn't talk down to them.
Right, it's not a kids show.
Yeah,
you can't see me doing air quotes on the radio.
Like it's like Amphibia is another show by another one of the creatives on Gravity Falls that came out another time. They're kind of they're
I
almost,
remember Keith recommended it when he was on. Yeah,
it's really good. They're kind of almost sister shows. Amphibia, I feel like, has moments where it is kind of talking down and is like it's kind of trying to moralize things, and it's good at it. Like, but there was moments where I'm like, I am an adult man watching a children's TV show.
Oh my god!
But Gravity Falls or The Owl House has just none of that. It's a spectacular show, highly recommended. I think Prim would love it.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's one way to get me to watch anything. Now, I will very briefly cover the big franchise stuff because it's all stuff we probably covered in agonizing detail throughout the year. But it's been a quietly very good year for Star Trek since you brought up Star Trek Voyager. Strange New Worlds was class. That was really, really good. Picard's second season, it had some ups and downs, but it was overall much stronger than its first season. Lower Decks Series 3 is still consistently good. I think me and probably your dad are the only people who saw it, but Discovery Series 4 was the strongest so far.
Yeah, no, that's nail on the head. You and my dad.
Can we do a new podcast?
No, you'd hate it. It'd be awful. One of these days, I will watch all of this. I'm on Deep Space Nine now. I'll get there.
I would recommend to you, though, I haven't covered it yet. Star Trek Prodigy is a direct sequel to Voyager.
You were telling me about that.
If you watched it, like Janeway and Chakotay are big characters in it.
Oh, always happy to see.
You can watch that. That will be another really good example of, like you were saying, it's technically a kids show on Nickelodeon, but it's not written down to kids. It's just like really, really well done. I would recommend that one very highly, even if you're not a Star Trek-y person. I'm going to cover the Star Wars stuff super briefly, because if I start talking about it too much, Darren...
He will come. He will.
Yes.
That plane from Paris will land, and he will get on this call.
I will just name check the fact that there were 3 Star Wars shows by my count this year, which were the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, the animated Tales of the Jedi, which was surprisingly good, and Andor, which we've said enough about. I will not have the last word on that. I loved it, but we will not get into that.
I have not watched it.
It's very good.
I'll get to it.
The most surprising thing about it was how much it was leaning on vaguely British-Irish parallels to illustrate the Empire and the Rebellion, which I found surprising, and then other stuff about colonization and stuff. But yeah, it's a very heady show, which I would say is a nice move for Star Wars, even if it's not your thing. I'm going to very quickly name check Marvel as well, which had 5 TV shows this year. You've probably forgotten at least one of them, which was... Actually, go on, Kev. We'll make this a test. Can you name the 5? Now, in fairness, 2 of them are specials, but can you name the 5 TV Marvel things?
Yeah, with the specials. The Night of a Werewolf. Oh, God.
That's it, yeah. That's one.
Night of the Werewolf, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel.
The British Museum.
I never finished Moon Knight. It is the only... somehow that is the only one I never actually finished.
Really? The horror one of all things?
I don't know. It just lost me. That's 4. What one am I missing?
The Guardian special.
Oh, yeah. That was fine.
We've covered all that already. I just wanted to name check for historical purposes in case it all gets deleted off the internet.
Of course, yeah.
And Doctor Who had a grand total of 2 episodes, which were fairly decent. And obviously, we've covered that in great detail.
Yeah.
Other places. Now, how much time do we have left, Kev?
We got 7 minutes. I can spitball kind of anime, because actually it was...
You've got anime or Fire Emblem. You get to pick one.
I'll go anime. I think Fire Emblem's a big topic. I'll play more of Engage.
We will do that
next
next week. I apologize. We do try to have plans, but sometimes we get distracted by shiny things. I'll
spitball anime, because I shotgunned a lot of the last year, the best of last year's anime in the 4-week span I was living in various bedrooms. So I think the highlight, the absolute favorite from last year, it has got to be Spy Family.
We just actually finished the finale before we started recording.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the whole premise is very Cold War Europe, like fantasy, like fictional Cold War Europe between two nations, but also very like 60s style still.
Yeah.
So we have a super spy master of disguise who has to infiltrate a like head of state. And the only way to do that is by faking a family and getting the kid to join a school. So the kid he picks up, turns out he doesn't know this, is a psychic and also the stupidest person on the planet. Who immediately clocks that he's a spy because she's a psychic and says nothing because she thinks that's just the coolest thing in the world.
That's very sweet.
In an effort to find a wife, he ends up having a meet cute with this really nice, really pretty girl called Yor. Turns out she is a master assassin. Totally murders people for money. And again, kid clocks that immediately, doesn't say anything because that's super sick.
Yes.
And it's really...
Sorry, go on, sorry.
It's just the hijinks of watching these three characters navigate their way through their like secret lives while also trying to keep up appearances. Like it's just a treat to watch. It's got enough like kind of hearty action to keep like the shonen fans happy, but the core of it is just the character dynamics and the comedy that gives.
Yeah, it's a very, because like you hear the premise of spy action stuff and you think it's going to be one thing, but it's an incredibly sweet kind of family, like will they, won't they type rom-com type thing too. Like we watched the last 2 or 3 episodes just before recording, me and my wife and my 3-year-old who loves it to death, absolutely is besotted with the pink-haired character in it. It's one of those shows that I'm not sure if it's appropriate for kids, but it speaks to ours.
But hey, they'll love it.
Yeah, and even I was won over before I even started watching because the episode titles are all the mission statements from a spy's point of view. So episode 2 has my favorite name for anything, which is series 1, episode 2, Secure a Wife.
And you know what? He does it.
And like other episodes are like a very matter of fact, show off how in love you are.
Yeah, no, it's a treat. And definitely one, I watched it all the way through Japanese. And then when I eventually got time with my fiance over the past couple of weeks, I sat her down and got her to watch it in English. So It's one of those ones where both honestly are like, you don't have a bad option in either. Yeah. Okay. We only got a couple of minutes, so spitfire.
Sure.
Bocchi the Rock is a fantastic music anime about a bunch of teenage girls joining a band. But the premise is the lead guitar player and the main character has the most crippling social anxiety of anyone on the planet. But she's also incredibly talented. And it's, again, comedy gold from there on out. Really lighthearted, really, really fun. Oh, God, why do I not have this much time?
I'm surprised you didn't bring up Chainsaw Man yet.
Hey, Cian, we're stuck for time. Because the other two, we're going to be Chainsaw Man and Mob Psycho 100. So 3 minutes. We got, Mob Psycho, one of, I know for a fact, one of our 2, favorite shows.
Yes.
Oh, the past while. Mob Psycho season 3 wraps up the show. Mob Psycho is done. The 3rd season finalizes it, but it's also almost 4 separate little stories in a 12-episode series, each of which are gorgeously animated and really just bring to a close this emotional arc of Mob coming to accept himself and the doomsday-like power he has inside of him and not fearing that, but also not using that to take advantage of the world. It's a beautiful ending. I definitely a show I can only recommend. I can't recommend highly enough. Just on animation and story quality. And then there's Chainsaw Man, and Chainsaw Man rules. And Chainsaw Man's a funny one. I love the manga for Chainsaw Man so deeply. It's
same.
Oh, you're reading it?
I'm getting them out of the library because you recommended it. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. it's fully like for me, it reshapes what you can do with a comic and with that format. And like Tatsuki Fujimoto's art style it's rough, it's sketchy, but it's gorgeous and it's so well detailed. And his faces, I've never seen a character display such emotion in so many in so many panels, especially when they're getting kicked in the crotch. It's a thing of true joy. And so the series does a fantastic job of adapting that. But it's always that transition from like one media to the next where you have to lose parts of what makes the comic great and then add to that what can make an animated series great. And that's like the problem with Chainsaw Man is the first season only covers up to the point where the plot really starts.
Right.
Like there's great moments in that show. It is a fantastically well-made show. And like they went to like as much as we could probably talk about how the studio that made it, Mappa, is almost a sweatshop for animators. It's with worker abuse. At least it feels like the team behind it, Chainsaw Man, actually cared about making it. Making little scenes that weren't even in the manga to kind of enrich the characters. And going so far as animating distinct ending sequences for each episode with different recording artists.
Right.
It's a great series, but I think I will always recommend people to read Chainsaw Man than to watch it.
Okay. All right.
But like if you want to watch, like obviously go watch it if that's what you want to do. Like it's not a bad watch. I just think the manga's better. And there's more of it. But we are at time.
Ending on Chainsaw Man seems like appropriate, yes.
Yeah.
We apologize we didn't get to do our dueling Fire Emblem reviews.
One of these days.
One of these days. But Kev, is there anything you want to say before we wrap?
No. You can follow me at KevTalika94. That's really just, I don't tweet much, but I retweet some funny stuff. That's mine.
You can't find me anywhere. I'm a ghost.
No, that's right.
I write for Geek Ireland a fair bit, and I'm going to be reviewing probably the Picard series, the new season, which comes out in 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll see how that all goes. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been an absolute blast covering all the TV, and like with last week, actually, it's really nice just to cover even the headlines because it makes me realize how much nice things we've had in the last year. So thank you very much for that, Kev. And of course, we're talking about Puss in Boots, which will always put me in a good mood.
Always a good time. Always a good time.
So until next time, I've been Cian.
I've been Kev.
And we've been in Meath. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Newgrange.
Oh, this is worth it. We do work and I. She says I'm not romantic. I say she's too dramatic.
Alright, so you're listening to the podcast, you're like, hey, I'm not in Ireland, how do I get in touch? Well, TuneIn has you covered. That's how you can check us out live when we're on the radio. You go to TuneIn and download the app, or you can check out the live streams on nerdtoknowmedia.com or Phoenix 92.5 FM. If you want to get in contact with us, it's very easy. Nerd to Know Media everywhere. Nerd to Know Media on Twitter, Nerd to Know Media Instagram, Nerd to Know Media on Twitch, Nerd to Know Media at gmail.com if you want to reach out via email. Hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.